The first alien ships appeared on a Tuesday morning, casting shadows over major cities across Earth like dark clouds before a storm. General Marcus Stone stood in the underground command center, watching radar screens that showed impossible readings. The Zephyrian fleet had arrived with technology that made humanity's most advanced aircraft look like paper airplanes. Dr. Sarah Chen, Earth's leading xenobiologist, received the first communication from the alien commander. The translation came through their universal communicator, a device the aliens had casually tossed down to Earth like feeding bread to ducks. Primitive species of the third planet, the voice crackled through speakers. We are the Zephyrian Empire. Your world contains resources we require. Surrender immediately or face annihilation. General Stone stepped forward. This is General Marcus Stone of the United Earth Defense Force. We request peaceful negotiations. A sound came through the communicator that could only be described as laughter. Your flying machines are amusing toys. We have observed your metal birds struggling to break the sound barrier. Our scouts move faster than your eyes can track. This will be over quickly. The first wave of human fighters launched within the hour. F-35 Lightning jets screamed through the sky, their pilots among Earth's finest. Captain Riley Jackson led the squadron, his hands steady on the controls despite the sweat beading on his forehead. Target acquired, Jackson reported into his radio. Engaging hostile craft. The alien scout ships looked like silver teardrops moving with impossible grace through the atmosphere. Jackson locked onto the nearest one and fired his missiles. The projectiles streaked toward their target, but the alien craft simply moved aside at the last second, as if dodging a slowly thrown ball. What the hell? Jackson muttered, pulling his jet into a sharp turn. The alien ship rotated to face him, and a pulse of blue energy shot out. Jackson barely managed to eject before his fighter exploded into burning fragments. His parachute deployed as he watched the rest of his squadron suffer the same fate. Back in the command center, General Stone watched the massacre unfold on his screens. 12 of Earth's finest pilots had been shot down in less than 10 minutes. The aliens hadn't even used their main ship, sir, a communications officer called out. We're receiving another message from the Zephyrian commander. The alien's voice filled the room, dripping with amusement. Your metal birds fly like wounded animals. Perhaps you should consider farming instead of warfare. We will begin resource extraction in 48 hours. Do not interfere and your deaths will be swift. Dr. Chen clenched her fists. There has to be something we can do. Our aircraft might be slower, but surely we have other advantages. General Stone studied the tactical display showing alien positions. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours. They're treating this like a game, but every enemy has weaknesses. The next morning brought worse news. The aliens had landed harvesting ships in remote areas, stripping entire forests bare in minutes. Their atmospheric fighters patrolled the skies, shooting down any aircraft that came within 50 miles. A young lieutenant named Davis burst into the command room, holding a classified folder. General Stone, sir, we found something. There's a squadron that might help. Stone frowned. What squadron? I thought all our aircraft were grounded or destroyed. The Ace Squadron, sir. They've been classified above top secret for the last 5 years. Even I don't know much about them, but this file says they're our last resort. Dr. Chen looked puzzled. I've never heard of any Ace Squadron. What makes them special? Lieutenant Davis flipped through the pages. According to this, they operate out of an underground base in Nevada. The aircraft they use, well, the specifications don't make sense. It says here they can achieve speeds that should be impossible with current technology. General Stone grabbed the folder. The documents inside were heavily redacted, but what he could read made his eyebrows rise. Experimental propulsion systems, classified materials, test pilots with genetic modifications. He looked up. This has to be some kind of black project. Should I contact them, sir? Davis asked. Before Stone could answer, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. The main screen showed a massive alien dreadnought descending toward New York City. The ship was the size of Manhattan, its hull gleaming like polished obsidian. They're not waiting the full 48 hours, Chen said grimly. The Zephyrian commander's voice echoed through the facility again. Your resistance amuses us, but our patience grows thin. We begin the harvesting of your primary population centers now. Your flying toys cannot reach us at this altitude. General Stone watched as the alien ship positioned itself over the city. Defensive missiles launched from ground installations. but they exploded harmlessly against invisible shields. The aliens' technology made Earth's weapons look like stones thrown at a mountain. "Get me the Ace Squadron," Stone ordered. "I don't care how classified they are. If they exist, we need them now." Lieutenant Davis frantically worked his communication equipment. "Sir, I'm getting a response, but it's encrypted beyond anything I've seen. The signal is coming from coordinates that show up as empty desert on satellite imagery." The main screen flickered, and a new voice came through the speakers. Unlike the alien communications, this one was clearly human, though distorted by heavy encryption. "This is Colonel Amanda Cross of Ace Squadron. We've been monitoring the situation. General Stone, you have clearance to know we exist, but not what we do. Colonel, we need immediate air support. Our conventional aircraft are useless against these aliens." A pause. "Understood, General. We'll be in the air in 20 minutes. Keep your remaining forces clear of the engagement zone." "What's your aircraft capability?" Stone asked. Another pause. "General, you'll see soon enough. Ace Squadron out." The communication ended, leaving the command center in tense silence. Outside, the alien dreadnought began lowering massive harvesting beams toward the city. People fled in panic through the streets below. Dr. Chen stared at the screens. 20 minutes might be too late. That ship will have harvested half the city by then. General Stone nodded grimly. "Then we better hope this Ace Squadron is everything the file suggests." In the distance, air raid sirens wailed across New York as the alien harvest began. The alien harvesting beams carved through New York's skyline like invisible knives. Entire blocks disappeared in seconds, their materials converted into energy that flowed upward into the Zephyrian dreadnought. The Statue of Liberty vanished in a flash of blue light, followed by the Brooklyn Bridge. Colonel Amanda Cross stood in the hangar of Area 77, a facility that officially didn't exist. Unlike the sterile military bases most people imagined, this place hummed with energy that made the air itself feel alive. The hangar stretched for miles underground, carved from solid rock and lined with materials that seemed to absorb light. "How long since we've had a real mission, Kate?" Cross asked her co-pilot. Major Kate Reynolds checked her flight gear, each piece crafted from alloys that didn't appear in any periodic table. 3 years, 2 months, and 16 days. I was starting to think they'd forgotten about us." "The program was designed to be forgotten," Cross replied, walking toward their aircraft. "Until the day it wasn't. The machine before them defied every principle of aerodynamics taught in flight school. The hull curved in impossible ways, seamlessly blending metal and something that looked like crystallized lightning. No visible engines, no wings in the traditional sense, just smooth surfaces that seemed to shift and flow like liquid mercury. Phantom 1. "Ready for activation," Cross said into her headset. Dr. Elizabeth Hayes watched from the control room, her fingers dancing across displays that showed readings beyond normal understanding. She'd spent 15 years developing the technology that made Ace Squadron possible. Technology that combined human engineering with something else entirely. "All systems green," Hayes reported. "The quantum drives are stable, and the metamaterial hull is responding perfectly to neural interface commands." Cross climbed into the cockpit, which looked more like the interior of a spacecraft than a fighter jet. Instead of traditional controls, neural interface contacts attached to her temples. The moment they connected, she felt the aircraft become an extension of her own body. "Neural link established," she reported, her voice now carrying an odd resonance. "Beginning startup sequence." Meanwhile, above ground, the situation in New York grew desperate. Emergency services had evacuated most of Manhattan, but the alien ship continued its methodical destruction. Each harvesting beam carved away another piece of the city. General Stone watched satellite feeds showing streams of refugees fleeing across bridges that hadn't yet been harvested. "How much time do we have before they move to the next city?" Dr. Chen studied alien communication patterns they'd intercepted. "Based on their efficiency, they'll finish with New York in approximately 1 hour. Then they'll move to Los Angeles, followed by London, Tokyo, and every other major population center. One species at a time," Stone muttered. "They've done this before." The Zephyrian commander's voice crackled through their communications again. "Your harvesting proceeds efficiently. We have processed your primitive architecture and found it adequate for basic construction materials. Your organic population centers provide excellent biomass conversion ratios." The casual tone made Stone's blood boil. To these aliens, humanity was nothing more than a resource to be processed. Back in Area 77, Cross felt Phantom 1's systems come online. The aircraft didn't roar to life like traditional jets. Instead, it seemed to wake up, its quantum drives creating a harmonic frequency that resonated through her bones. Phantom 2, ready for launch, called Captain Jake Morrison from the cockpit of an identical craft. His neural interface showed green across all systems. Phantom 3, systems nominal, reported Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Kim. Cross opened a channel to the surface. Control Ace Squadron ready for deployment, requesting immediate launch clearance. The massive doors above them opened, revealing a launch tube that extended upward for nearly a mile. Traditional aircraft would need runways. Ace Squadron needed only empty sky. Ace Squadron, you are cleared for launch, came the reply from General Stone's command center. Engage targets of opportunity, but your primary objective is the dreadnought over Manhattan. Cross felt the quantum drives engage, and Phantom 1 shot upward through the launch tube like a bullet fired from heaven. The acceleration would have killed any normal pilot, but the neural interface distributed the forces throughout her body, making her one with the machine. She emerged from the underground facility doing Mach 7, climbing toward the stratosphere in seconds. Behind her, Phantoms 2 and 3 followed, their identical profiles invisible to most detection systems. Ace Squadron airborne, Cross reported. ETA to target, 2 minutes 30 seconds. From orbit, the Zephyrian observers noticed unusual readings on their sensors. 3 objects had appeared on their screens, moving faster than anything they'd seen from the human military. Commander, a Zephyrian sensor operator reported, we're detecting 3 aircraft approaching from the western continent. Their velocity exceeds our previous observations of human technology by significant margins. The Zephyrian commander studied the display with mild interest. Perhaps they have launched some form of ballistic missile. Instruct our patrol craft to intercept and destroy. 6 alien scout ships peeled away from the main formation, their teardrop hulls gleaming as they accelerated toward the approaching objects. Each scout ship carried enough firepower to level a city block. Cross saw them coming on her display. We have incoming hostiles. 6 bogies bearing 270, altitude 60,000 feet. Copy that, Phantom 1, Morrison replied. Should we break formation? Negative. Maintain course and speed. Let's see what they've got. The alien scouts opened fire while still 50 miles away, sending streams of energy pulses that had destroyed every human aircraft they'd encountered. The blue bolt streaked through the sky, but something impossible happened. The 3 Phantom aircraft didn't dodge or evade. Instead, they seemed to phase slightly, becoming translucent for just a moment. The energy blasts passed harmlessly through them as if they were ghosts. What? The Zephyrian commander stared at his display in confusion. Replay that sensor data. The recording showed clearly. The human aircraft had temporarily existed in a different dimensional phase, allowing the energy weapons to pass through them without effect. Cross smiled behind her helmet. Quantum phase shifting operational. Proceeding to target. The alien scouts tried again, this time with physical projectiles. High-density metal slugs fired at relativistic speeds should have torn through any material. Instead, the Phantom aircraft's metamaterial hulls absorbed the impact energy and converted it directly into additional propulsion. They're actually making us faster, Kim reported with amazement in her voice. The Zephyrian commander's confidence began to waver. All patrol units converge on those 3 aircraft. Use maximum firepower. But Ace Squadron was already past the patrol line, screaming toward Manhattan at speeds that made the alien ships look slow by comparison. Behind them, confused Zephyrian pilots tried to turn their vessels around to give chase. Cross locked onto the massive dreadnought ahead. Target acquired. Beginning attack run. Dr. Hayes monitored from Area 77, watching readings that showed her life's work finally being tested in combat, all systems holding steady. The quantum drives are operating at 97% efficiency. General Stone watched the tactical display in amazement. What are those aircraft? The future of human aerospace technology, Lieutenant Davis replied, reading from the classified files. If they can stop that dreadnought. The Zephyrian commander finally understood he was facing something unprecedented. Recall all harvesting operations immediately. Deploy the heavy fighters. These are not the primitive aircraft we observed earlier. The massive Zephyrian dreadnought dominated the sky above Manhattan like a metallic mountain. Its harvesting beams had already consumed Central Park, leaving behind empty craters where green spaces once flourished. The ship's hull bristled with defensive weapons that could vaporize anything within a 100-mile radius. Colonel Cross guided Phantom, one through a series of maneuvers that would have been impossible for conventional aircraft. The quantum drives allowed her to change direction without regard for momentum or G-forces, making her flight path look like the work of a supernatural entity. "Phantom Squadron, this is your target," Cross announced, highlighting the dreadnought on their shared tactical display. "Intelligence suggests the main power core is located in the central section, approximately 2 miles below the upper hull." Captain Morrison studied the massive ship through his neural link. "That's a lot of armor to punch through. What's our weapon loadout?" "Quantum torpedoes," Cross replied. "Each one contains enough compressed energy to level a mountain. We get 3 shots each." The Zephyrian heavy fighters launched from the dreadnought's belly, emerging like angry wasps from a disturbed nest. These weren't the scouts AC Squadron had bypassed earlier. Each heavy fighter was the size of a passenger jet, armed with weapons designed to crack planetary surfaces. "Incoming hostiles," Lieutenant Colonel Kim reported. 12 heavy fighters ascending from the target ship. Cross felt her neural interface process tactical information faster than any computer. Battle plans formed and dissolved in microseconds as her enhanced mind calculated attack vectors, defensive maneuvers, and probability matrices. "Formation Alpha 7, she ordered. "Kim, take high cover." Morrison, come in from the port side. "I'll draw their attention with a frontal approach." The Zephyrian pilots had fought across dozens of solar systems, conquering primitive species with technology barely advanced enough to achieve spaceflight. They approached the 3 human aircraft with the confidence of apex predators. The lead alien pilot opened fire with plasma cannons that could melt through titanium like butter. The superheated bolts streaked toward Phantom 1, but Cross shifted into quantum phase just as the weapons fired. The plasma passed through her aircraft like light through glass. "Impossible," the alien pilot transmitted in his native language. "Target has achieved dimensional displacement." Cross emerged from phase shift directly above the alien fighter and fired her first quantum torpedo. The weapon didn't explode in the traditional sense. Instead, it created a localized space-time distortion that imploded the alien craft from the inside out. Morrison came in from the side, his Phantom 2 moving in ways that defied physics. He rolled inverted, accelerated through a barrel roll that should have torn his aircraft apart, and fired at 2 alien fighters simultaneously. Both quantum torpedoes found their marks, creating twin implosions that briefly opened holes in reality itself. The remaining alien pilots realized they faced something beyond their understanding. These weren't the clumsy metal birds they'd been expecting. These were weapons that operated on principles the Zephyrian Empire had never encountered. "All units, retreat to defensive positions around the mothership," the alien squadron leader transmitted. "These aircraft utilize unknown technology, but Ace Squadron wasn't finished." Kim dove from above like a hunting falcon, her Phantom 3 moving so fast it became a blur even to enhanced sensors. She fired her quantum torpedo into the center of the alien formation, and the resulting implosion caught 3 heavy fighters in its event horizon. Back in the underground command center, General Stone watched the engagement with growing amazement. "How is this possible? Our best aircraft were swatted down like flies, but these 3 are cutting through their formation like it's made of paper." Dr. Chen studied the tactical data streaming from the battle. "Look at their flight patterns. Those aren't following any known laws of aerodynamics. They're moving like they're not entirely in our dimension." Lieutenant Davis checked the classified files again. "Sir, there's a mention here of something called the Prometheus Project. It says they've been working with recovered materials for over a decade." "Recovered from where?" Stone asked. Davis flipped through more pages. "The Roswell incident wasn't what the public thinks it was. We didn't just find crashed alien technology. We found something much older." Meanwhile, the Zephyrian commander watched his heavy fighters fall one by one. In 3 minutes of combat, these mysterious human aircraft had destroyed 9 of his most advanced fighters without taking a single hit themselves. "Activate the dreadnought's primary weapons," he ordered. "Target those 3 craft directly." The massive ship's main cannon swiveled toward Ace Squadron. Each weapon was the size of a skyscraper, capable of punching holes through moons. They fired in sequence, sending beams of concentrated energy that lit up the sky like miniature suns. Cross saw the beams coming, and made a decision that would have seemed insane to any normal pilot. Instead of dodging, she flew directly into the path of the incoming fire. "Phantom 1, what are you doing?" Morrison called out in alarm. "Testing a theory," Cross replied calmly. The energy beam struck Phantom 1 dead center, but instead of vaporizing the aircraft, something extraordinary happened. The quantum drives absorbed the incoming energy, converting it into additional power for the ship's systems. "Fascinating," Cross reported, her voice filled with wonder. "The metamaterial hull isn't just resistant to energy weapons. It feeds on them." The Zephyrian commander stared at his displays in growing horror. "The target vessel has absorbed a full power blast from our primary cannon. Energy readings suggest it has actually become stronger." Kim and Morrison followed Cross's lead, deliberately flying into the paths of the alien weapons. Each hit made their aircraft more powerful, the quantum drives humming with absorbed energy. "Ace Squadron, you are now operating at 112% efficiency," Dr. Hayes reported from Area 77. "The power levels are beyond anything we achieved in testing." Cross locked onto the dreadnought's hull and fired her second quantum torpedo. This one, supercharged by absorbed alien energy, punched through the ship's armor like it was tissue paper. Internal explosions bloomed across the massive vessel's hull as critical systems failed. "Hull breach in Section 7, a Zephyrian damage control officer reported. The human weapon has penetrated our primary shielding." Morrison and Kim followed up with their own attacks, targeting specific sections of the dreadnought. Each quantum torpedo created massive holes in the alien ship, revealing the complex machinery inside. The harvesting beams flickered and died as power systems failed throughout the dreadnought. In the streets below, refugees looked up in amazement as the destruction of their city stopped for the first time in hours. "The impossible has happened," the Zephyrian commander transmitted to his fleet. "3 human aircraft have crippled our largest vessel. Request immediate reinforcements from the second wave." Cross heard the transmission through her neural interface. "Phantom Squadron, we've got more hostiles incoming. Sensors show approximately 50 additional craft approaching from high orbit." The second wave of the alien invasion was descending toward Earth. But for the first time since the attack began, humanity had shown it could fight back. "All units, prepare for extended combat operations," Cross ordered. "We've proven these aliens aren't invincible. Now let's show them what happens when you pick a fight with the human race." The second wave of Zephyrian ships descended through Earth's atmosphere like falling stars, their hulls glowing from atmospheric friction. 50 attack cruisers, each one larger than the destroyed heavy fighters, spread out in a battle formation that had conquered 100 worlds. Colonel Cross felt her neural interface process the new threat assessment. The incoming ships carried enough firepower to glass entire continents, and they were learning from the first engagement. Their approach patterns showed they understood Ace Squadron was unlike anything they'd faced before. "Phantom Squadron, new contacts bearing 090 through 180, Cross reported. "Command, are there any other Ace units available for deployment?" General Stone's voice crackled through the secure channel. "Negative, Colonel. You 3 are it. But we're tracking your energy signatures, and whatever you're doing is working." Dr. Hayes monitored from Area 77, watching power readings that exceeded every theoretical limit. "Amanda, the quantum drives are operating beyond design parameters. You're pulling energy from somewhere that shouldn't exist." Cross smiled grimly. "Doc, I think these drives were always designed to exceed our understanding. We just needed the right motivation to push them." The lead Zephyrian cruiser opened communications, broadcasting on all frequencies. "Human aircraft, you have demonstrated capabilities that intrigue our science division. Surrender immediately, and your technology will be studied before your species is processed." Morrison's response came through Ace Squadron's encrypted channel. "I vote we show them exactly how interested we are in their science division." The alien cruisers opened fire simultaneously, creating a web of energy beams that filled the sky above Manhattan. But Ace Squadron had evolved beyond simply absorbing individual shots. Cross activated a new protocol that Dr. Hayes had only theorized about. "Initiating collective quantum resonance," Cross announced. The 3 Phantom aircraft suddenly linked their quantum drives, creating a shared dimensional field that surrounded all 3 ships. The incoming alien fire struck the field and was redistributed among the 3 craft, tripling each ship's power absorption rate. Energy levels now at 140%, Kim reported, her voice tinged with exhilaration. I've never felt anything like this. The enhanced power allowed them to access capabilities that hadn't been tested even in the most classified simulations. Cross discovered she could phase shift not just her aircraft but space itself around her. She created a localized wormhole that redirected an entire volley of alien fire back at its source. 6 Zephyrian cruisers found themselves hit by their own weapons, their shields overloading as familiar energy signatures tore through their defensive systems. The alien commanders had never faced an enemy that could turn their own attacks against them. Morrison pushed his enhanced systems to create multiple quantum torpedoes simultaneously. Instead of the standard 3 weapons, Phantom II generated a dozen smaller torpedoes that moved independently, each one seeking a different target like a school of predatory fish. The alien formation scattered as the torpedoes weaved between their ships, but the weapons were guided by quantum entanglement with Morrison's neural interface. Distance and conventional evasion tactics meant nothing when the torpedoes existed partially outside normal. Space-time explosions bloomed throughout the alien fleet as the quantum weapons found their marks. Each hit created cascading failures in the advanced alien technology, systems designed to withstand planetary bombardment, failing against weapons that attacked reality itself. This is impossible, the Zephyrian fleet commander transmitted to his remaining ships. These weapons operate on principles that violate fundamental physical laws. Kim had been experimenting with her own enhanced capabilities when she discovered something that changed the entire battle. Her neural interface, supercharged by absorbed alien energy, began picking up the aliens' communication frequencies directly. Phantom Squadron, I'm intercepting their tactical communications, she reported. They're calling for a full retreat. Something about our weapons being dimensionally incompatible with their technology. Cross processed this information through her enhanced cognitive abilities. They're scared. Their technology is advanced, but it's still bound by their understanding of physics. We're using principles they've never encountered. The revelation gave A Squadron a new tactical advantage. If the aliens couldn't understand their weapons, they couldn't develop effective countermeasures. Cross opened a direct communication channel to the alien fleet. Zephyrian vessels, this is Colonel Amanda Cross of Earth Defense Force ACE Squadron. You have 60 seconds to begin withdrawal from our solar system, or we will demonstrate capabilities that will make your worst tactical assessments look optimistic. The alien fleet commander's response was swift. Human pilot, your species has hidden technology that defies our understanding. This was not in our initial assessment reports. Your initial assessment was incomplete, Cross replied coldly. Humanity doesn't surrender easily, and we certainly don't surrender to species that view us as resources to be harvested. The damaged dreadnought above Manhattan began emergency ascent procedures, its massive bulk slowly rising toward orbit. Half of its harvesting systems were offline, and internal fires still burned throughout its hull. But the Zephyrian commander wasn't ready to retreat. His species had built an empire on technological superiority, and these 3 human aircraft represented a challenge to everything the Zephyrians believed about their place in the universe. All remaining units, implement Protocol 7, the commander ordered. If we cannot defeat these craft, we will study them through direct capture. The surviving alien cruisers suddenly changed tactics. Instead of firing weapons, they projected capture fields designed to envelop and contain enemy vessels. The technology had successfully trapped everything from asteroids to entire space stations. Cross saw the shimmering energy fields expanding toward her squadron. They're trying to capture us alive. Phantom Squadron, prepare for emergency dispersal. But something unexpected happened when the alien capture fields contacted the Phantom aircraft. The quantum drives didn't just resist the containment fields. They began feeding on the capture technology itself. Energy absorption rate now at 180%, Morrison reported in amazement. These capture fields are basically feeding us power directly. The alien technology, designed to trap conventional matter and energy, had no protocols for dealing with vessels that existed partially outside normal dimensional space. The capture fields actually enhanced ACE Squadron's capabilities, allowing them to access combat systems that Dr. Hayes had only dreamed about. Cross felt new weapon systems coming online, guided by quantum intelligence that seemed to anticipate her thoughts. Phantom Squadron, we're about to test capabilities that don't officially exist. Follow my lead. She fired a new type of quantum torpedo, one that didn't just create localized implosions. This weapon opened a dimensional rift that connected directly to the heart of the alien fleet's formation. The torpedo emerged inside the flagship's bridge, bypassing all external defenses. The Zephyrian command ship exploded from the inside out, its advanced technology unable to comprehend an attack that had traveled through folded space-time to reach its target. Fleet command is down, Kim reported, monitoring alien communications. Their remaining ships are requesting emergency retreat authorization from their homeworld. But Ace Squadron wasn't finished. They had absorbed enough alien energy to power a small city, and their quantum drives were revealing capabilities that pushed the boundaries of known science. The real battle was just beginning. With their flagship destroyed and their command structure in chaos, the remaining Zephyrian ships found themselves facing an enemy that defied every tactical manual in their empire's vast military database. The 3 Phantom aircraft moved through space like predators that had evolved beyond the laws of physics themselves. Dr. Hayes watched the battle from Area 77, her displays showing energy readings that made her question 15 years of research. Amanda, the quantum drives are accessing power sources that shouldn't exist in our dimensional framework. Where is this energy coming from? Colonel Cross felt the answer flowing through her neural interface, knowledge that seemed to come from the aircraft itself rather than her own memories. Doc, I think these ships were never built using purely human technology. The quantum drives are responding to something much older. In the underground command center, Lieutenant Davis made a discovery that changed everyone's understanding of the situation. He'd been digging deeper into the Prometheus project files when he found a document that had been classified beyond top secret. General Stone, Davis called out, his voice shaking. You need to see this. The Roswell incident, it wasn't what we thought. Stone studied the document, his face growing pale as he read. This says the craft that crashed in 1947 wasn't from another planet. It was human technology from the future, sent back through dimensional rifts created by a war we haven't fought yet. Dr. Chen leaned over his shoulder, reading the classified text. According to this, the technology was meant to ensure humanity's survival against an invasion that was supposed to happen in our timeline. The Ace Squadron aircraft aren't just advanced. They're temporal echoes of our own future. Meanwhile, above Manhattan, the battle reached a critical turning point. The surviving Zephyrian cruisers had regrouped into a defensive formation around their damaged dreadnought. But their morale was shattered. They'd lost nearly half their fleet to 3 aircraft that shouldn't have existed. Cross accessed deeper levels of her neural interface, feeling her consciousness merge more completely with Phantom One's quantum intelligence. The aircraft wasn't just a machine, it was a living weapon that had been waiting decades for this moment. Phantom Squadron, I'm detecting massive power signatures approaching from deep space, Cross reported. The Zephyrians are calling in their main battle fleet. Morrison checked his enhanced sensors. I count at least 200 ships, including what looks like a Planet Killer-class vessel. ETA approximately 30 minutes. Kim's voice carried a strange resonance through the communication system. Amanda, the quantum drives are showing me something. We're not just fighting this battle in the present. We're fighting it across multiple timelines simultaneously. The revelation hit Cross like lightning. The neural interfaces weren't just connecting them to advanced technology. They were linking their minds to future versions of themselves who had already fought and won this war. The knowledge of how to defeat the Zephyrians was flowing backward through time itself. Control, I need you to activate all remaining ACE units, Cross ordered. Emergency authorization Omega-7. General Stone hesitated. Colonel, you said there were only 3 aircraft. There are only 3 in this timeline, Cross replied cryptically. But the Prometheus project built contingencies across multiple dimensional frameworks. It's time to activate them. Dr. Hayes's hands flew across her control systems, accessing protocols she'd helped design but never expected to use. Deep beneath Area 77, additional launch tubes began opening, revealing hangar bays that existed in carefully controlled pocket dimensions. Temporal stabilizers coming online, Hayes reported. Initiating cross-dimensional deployment sequence. The sky above Earth suddenly filled with dozens of new contacts. Not more alien ships, but additional Phantom aircraft emerging from dimensional rifts that opened and closed in microseconds. Each one carried a pilot whose neural pattern matched members of Ace Squadron. but who had come from slightly different timelines where the war had already been fought. The Zephyrian sensors went haywire as they tried to process the impossible readings. Their instruments detected 3 human aircraft multiplying into 30, then 50, then over 100 identical craft, all operating with the same impossible technology. This violates every law of causality, the Zephyrian science officer reported to his surviving commanders. The humans are deploying forces from parallel dimensional frameworks. Cross felt her awareness expand as she connected with her alternate timeline counterparts. Each version of herself brought knowledge and experience from different outcomes of the same war. Some had faced Zephyrian invasions that lasted years. Others had ended the conflict in hours. All of them shared their tactical knowledge through the quantum link. The approaching Zephyrian main fleet emerged from hyperspace to find not 3 primitive aircraft, but a dimensional armada that represented humanity's response to invasion across dozens of possible futures. Zephyrian Fleet. This is Colonel Amanda Cross speaking for the Terran Temporal Defense Force. She broadcast across all frequencies. You have encountered not just Earth's defense, but the collective resistance of humanity across multiple timeline variants. We are the future echoes of a species you tried to destroy. The Zephyrian Emperor himself responded from the planet killer vessel, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had conquered galaxies. Impossible. Temporal manipulation on this scale would require technology beyond any species we have encountered. Cross smiled, feeling the knowledge of her future selves flowing through her consciousness. Your empire conquers worlds by being more advanced than primitive species. But you've never faced a species that had access to its own future knowledge. We know how this war ends across every possible timeline, and in all of them, humanity survives. The quantum drives across all the Phantom aircraft began resonating in harmony, creating a dimensional field that encompassed the entire solar system. The Zephyrian ships found their weapon systems failing as the laws of physics around them shifted to favor human technology. Morrison fired the first shot of the expanded battle, his quantum torpedo creating a chain reaction that spread across dimensional barriers. The weapon didn't just destroy one alien ship. It eliminated that ship across multiple timelines simultaneously, ensuring it could never have existed to threaten any version of Earth. The Zephyrian Emperor realized he faced something unprecedented in his empire's long history. All ships implement maximum retreat protocols. Signal the Imperial Council that this system is classified as temporally defended. We cannot fight an enemy that knows our every move before we make it. But Cross had already anticipated their retreat. Her future selves had shown her exactly how to prevent the Zephyrians from ever returning to threaten Earth again. Phantom Squadron. All timelines implement Protocol Infinity, she ordered. Across every dimensional variant, A Squadron prepared to end the invasion not just in the present, but across all possible futures where humanity might be threatened. The final phase of the battle was about to begin, and it would determine the fate of humanity across the entire multiverse. Protocol Infinity activated across every timeline simultaneously, creating a paradox that even the Zephyrians' advanced science couldn't comprehend. Hundreds of Phantom aircraft, each one representing a different possible future for humanity, converged on the alien fleet with the combined knowledge of every war humanity had ever fought or would fight, Colonel D. Cross felt her consciousness expand beyond individual awareness as she merged with her alternate selves. The woman who had spent years fighting a prolonged Zephyrian occupation, the version who had ended the war in a single devastating strike, the Cross who had sacrificed herself to save billions. All of their experiences flowed together, creating a tactical intelligence that transcended normal human limitations. Temporal fields stabilized across all dimensional variants, Dr. Hayes reported from Area 77, her instruments showing readings that rewrote physics textbooks in real time. Amanda, you're connected to every possible future where humanity survives. The quantum drives are channeling probability itself. The Zephyrian Emperor stared at displays showing tactical scenarios that made no sense. His fleet of 200 ships faced opposition that existed in a state of quantum superposition, simultaneously attacking from past, present, and future. Every move his forces made was countered before they could complete it. Emperor, his science advisor reported with growing panic. Our tactical computers cannot process this battle configuration. The human forces are operating outside causality. They're responding to our orders before we give them. Cross accessed the collective knowledge of her timeline variants and began the final assault. But this wasn't about destroying ships or winning a conventional battle. Protocol Infinity was designed to solve the problem of alien invasion at its source, across every possible timeline where it might occur. All Phantom units, target the dimensional anchor points, Cross ordered. We're not just stopping this invasion. We're preventing every invasion that could ever threaten any version of humanity. The quantum torpedoes fired by the assembled fleet didn't target the Zephyrian ships directly. Instead, they struck specific points in spacetime where the aliens' hyperspace technology created vulnerable connections to their home dimension. Each torpedo created a controlled implosion that sealed those connection points permanently. Morrison, now linked with dozens of versions of himself, coordinated attacks across multiple battlefronts that existed in different probability streams. Dimensional barriers are holding steady. Their entire fleet is being cut off from reinforcements across all possible timelines. The Zephyrian ships found themselves trapped in Earth's solar system, unable to retreat to hyperspace or call for reinforcements. Worse, their advanced technology began failing as the altered physics of the dimensional field made their weapons and shields operate on principles that no longer applied. This is impossible, the Zephyrian Emperor broadcast, his voice carrying centuries of imperial authority, cracking under the strain of facing the incomprehensible. Your species was classified as barely space-capable. How do you possess temporal manipulation technology? Cross responded with the voice of every human who had ever faced extinction and refused to surrender. Because we're not just fighting for our present. We're fighting for every child who will ever be born, every dream that will ever be dreamed, every future that could ever exist. You tried to harvest us, but you've never faced a species that refuses to be limited by linear time. The battle reached its crescendo as the Phantom aircraft began implementing the final phase of Protocol Infinity. Instead of simply destroying the alien fleet, they began rewriting the probability matrices that had led to the invasion in the first place. Kim, her consciousness now expanded across dozens of timeline variants, targeted the quantum foundations of Zephyrian faster-than-light technology. Her weapons didn't just damage their ships. They reached backward through time to disrupt the scientific discoveries that had made Zephyrian star travel possible. Targeting the source code of their civilization, Kim reported, her voice echoing with temporal harmonics. If they never develop the technology to cross interstellar distances, they never threaten any version of humanity. The effect was immediate and devastating. Across the Zephyrian fleet, ships began to phase in and out of existence as their technological foundation was undermined at the quantum level. The massive planet-killer vessel flickered like a failing hologram, as the physics that allowed its operation were retroactively altered. No, the Zephyrian Emperor transmitted in growing horror. You're not just defeating us. You're erasing us from the timeline itself. We're ensuring our survival across every possible future, Cross replied without emotion. Your empire's expansion ends here, across all dimensions where it might have existed. Dr. Hayes monitored the cascade effects from Area 77, watching as probability waves spread outward from Earth toward the Zephyrian home galaxy. The temporal alterations are propagating faster than light. Their entire civilization is being retroactively prevented from developing interstellar capability. But the Zephyrians had one final desperate option. Their emperor activated a device that had been forbidden by galactic law for millions of years. A temporal bomb designed to destroy entire timeline branches. If we cannot exist to conquer you, then you will not exist to stop us, the emperor declared, his hand poised over the activation control. Cross felt the threat through her quantum link and smiled. Her future selves had known this moment would come, and had prepared for it across every possible timeline. Emperor, you've made a critical error. You assumed we were fighting to preserve our timeline, but Protocol Infinity was never about preservation. It was about evolution. The Phantom aircraft suddenly began merging across dimensional barriers, their quantum drives creating a convergence point that pulled elements from every possible human future into a single, perfected present. Earth became the nexus of human potential across all realities, a world that existed simultaneously in every timeline where humanity could thrive. The temporal bomb activated, but instead of destroying Earth's timeline, it was absorbed into the dimensional convergence. The destructive energy was converted into creative force, strengthening the quantum barriers that now protected humanity across all possible futures. The Zephyrian fleet simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed but edited out of reality at the quantum level. Their Emperor's final transmission faded away as if it had never been spoken. Temporal convergence complete, Dr. Hayes reported in amazement. Earth now exists in a state of quantum superposition across all favorable timeline variants. We're simultaneously living in every possible future, where humanity survives and thrives. Cross felt her consciousness returning to normal awareness, but she retained the knowledge and wisdom of her alternate selves. Around her, the other Phantom aircraft began phasing back to their respective timelines. Their mission complete. Protocol Infinity successful, she reported to General Stone. The Zephyrian threat has been neutralized across all possible realities. Earth is now temporally protected. But as the immediate crisis ended, Cross realized that humanity had crossed a threshold from which there could be no return. They were no longer just a single species on a single world. They had become something new, a civilization that existed across multiple dimensions simultaneously, with access to the combined knowledge of every possible human future. The age of humanity's expansion into the multiverse was about to begin. 3 months after the Zephyrian invasion that never happened, Colonel Amanda Cross stood in the rebuilt Area 77, watching technicians work on quantum drives that had evolved far beyond their original specifications. The facility now existed in 7 dimensions simultaneously, its corridors stretching through probability space to connect with research stations across multiple timeline variants. Dr. Elizabeth Hayes approached with a report that would have been classified impossible just months earlier. The quantum drives are still evolving. They're developing capabilities we never programmed into them. It's as if they're learning from contact with parallel versions of themselves. Cross nodded, her awareness now permanently expanded beyond single timeline thinking. They were always meant to evolve. The future versions of ourselves didn't just send back technology, they sent back potential itself. General Stone entered the laboratory, carrying communications from governments around the world. Colonel, we're receiving contact requests from species across the galaxy. Word has spread about what happened here. Apparently, there's never been a successful temporal defense on this scale before. The aftermath of Protocol Infinity had created ripple effects throughout the galaxy that went far beyond simply stopping one invasion. The Zephyrian Empire had been retroactively prevented from conquering dozens of other worlds, freeing civilizations that had been enslaved for centuries. Humanity had inadvertently become the liberators of half the galaxy. How are the other governments handling the knowledge about multiple timelines? Cross asked. Stone smiled grimly. About as well as you'd expect. Most world leaders are still trying to understand how we simultaneously exist in thousands of different realities. The UN has established a Temporal Affairs Committee, though I'm not sure they have any idea what they're supposed to do. Dr. Chen walked over from her xenobiology station, carrying samples that defied conventional science. Amanda were receiving genetic material through dimensional rifts. Plant and animal specimens from Earth timelines where evolution took different paths. Some of these species could revolutionize agriculture and medicine. Cross studied the samples with enhanced vision that could now see across dimensional barriers. Our world is becoming a convergence point for every positive possibility humanity has ever had. We're not just one Earth anymore. We're the Earth that represents our species' highest potential. The Phantom aircraft had been upgraded with new capabilities that emerged from their dimensional experiences. No longer limited to operating in single timelines, they could now patrol probability space itself, ensuring that no threat could approach Earth from any dimensional angle. Captain Morrison appeared through a quantum portal, returning from a reconnaissance mission to parallel Earth timelines. The monitoring network is fully operational. We've got early warning systems in place across 47 different probability streams. If anyone tries to threaten any version of humanity, we'll know about it before they finish planning. Lieutenant Colonel Kim materialized beside him, her consciousness having adapted to existing in multiple dimensions simultaneously. More importantly, we're making contact with advanced human civilizations from timelines where our development followed different paths. Some versions of humanity achieved space travel thousands of years ago. Others developed psychic abilities. We're forming a multiversal human alliance. The implications staggered even Cross's expanded awareness. Humanity wasn't just one species anymore. They were becoming a multiversal civilization that could share knowledge and resources across infinite possibility streams. The version of Earth that had been threatened by the Zephyrians was now connected to Earth timelines where humanity had already mastered technologies that made even quantum drives look primitive. What about first contact protocols? General Stone asked. We're receiving communications from non-human species that want to establish diplomatic relations. Apparently, our temporal defense has earned us quite a reputation. Dr. Hayes pulled up holographic displays showing communication attempts from across the galaxy. 12 different species have requested embassy status. They're calling us the Temporal Guardians and asking for protection from other threats that might try dimensional assault tactics. Cross considered the responsibility that had fallen on humanity's shoulders. We defended ourselves and accidentally became the protectors of multiversal stability. The Zephyrians taught the galaxy that dimensional warfare was possible, but we proved it could be defended against. A new voice entered the conversation as Dr. Sarah Kim, the original timeline specialist, joined the group. The really fascinating part is that we're receiving knowledge from human futures we prevented from happening. In some timelines, the Zephyrian invasion succeeded, and humanity spent centuries developing resistance technology. That knowledge is flowing backward to us through quantum entanglement. Morrison checked his dimensional sensors. We're also getting warnings about other potential threats. The Zephyrians weren't the only empire that practices species harvesting. There's something called the Void Collective that's been moving through our galactic sector, and they've been watching our dimensional capabilities with great interest. Cross felt a familiar sensation as her neural interface connected with the quantum network. Information from dozens of timeline variants flowed through her consciousness, showing her potential futures where humanity faced threats that made the Zephyrians look like children with toys. Then we keep evolving, she decided. The Prometheus project wasn't just about defending Earth from one invasion. It was about preparing humanity for our role as multiversal guardians. We've proven that intelligence and determination can overcome any technological advantage. 6 months later, the first Terran multiversal defense fleet launched from Earth, carrying crews that existed simultaneously across multiple timelines. Their mission was to patrol dimensional space and ensure that no species would ever again threaten developing civilizations with extinction, the Phantom aircraft. That had started as humanity's last desperate defense had evolved into the templates for vessels that could exist in quantum superposition, capable of being everywhere and nowhere at once. Earth had become the anchor point for human civilization across infinite realities, a world that represented every positive path humanity could possibly take. As Cross prepared for humanity's first interdimensional diplomatic mission, she reflected on how far they'd come from the day when alien laughter had dismissed Earth's primitive aircraft. The Zephyrians had expected to harvest a helpless species, but instead had awakened a multiversal power that would ensure the survival and prosperity of countless civilizations across the galaxy. The jets they had laughed at were gone, replaced by craft that bent reality itself to their will. And at the controls were humans who had learned that the future wasn't something that happened to them. It was something they created, one quantum decision at a time. Humanity had laughed last, and their laughter echoed across dimensions, carrying the promise that freedom and determination would always triumph over those who sought to reduce sentient beings to mere resources to be consumed. The age of the Terran Multiversal Defense Force had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same.